Hi guys, DIYMark. It's been 10 months and 900 miles since I first reviewed this Dualtron 3 electric scooter, and I thought it was time to do a follow-up review. I've learned a lot about the Dualtron and using an electric scooter to get around. And for those of you that missed my first video where I go over all the features and why I purchased the Dualtron 3, I'll put a link up above. It's a good place to start if you're thinking about jumping into the electric scooter market. Overall, I've been very happy with my purchase of the Dualtron 3. It works as well today as it did the first day I rode it. I've not experienced any battery fade, and it pulls strong and easily reaches 40 miles per hour top speed. As I mentioned in the first video, this is my second Dualtron 3. The first one had a defective hub motor and failed the first week I got it. Many motors replaced it with this one, and I've had no issues so far. So let's start with power. The Dualtron continues to impress. I live in a fairly hilly area, and my neighborhood is at the top of a long climb. When I first started looking at purchasing an electric scooter, this was a big concern. I tried a couple of the smaller 400 to 600 watt scooters at the local electric bike store, and they simply could not make it up the hill to my house. This Dualtron 3 has 3600 peak watts of power with dual motors, and it easily handled every hill that I have faced. It's difficult to judge the steepness of the hills from the GoPro footage here, but take a look at the front yards of the homes and you'll get a better feel for how truly steep these inclines are. I even had my friend Gary ride his mountain bike up a hill with a head start as quickly as he could, and the Dualtron flew past him. The suspension on the Dualtron 3 has become much more compliant as the miles have added up. It soaks up the small bumps better than it did when I first got it. And I suspect the elastomer shocks have gotten softer over time, which is a good thing. It also has no problem with larger bumps in the road, and it keeps you straight and solid. I've gotten lots of questions about the top speed of the Dualtron 3. Most of the videos out there tout their top speeds as the measure of performance. As I mentioned before, this scooter tops out at about 40 miles per hour. But the whole top speed thing is overblown in my opinion. The limitation of the Dualtron is not the motor power, but the chassis. Let me see if I can explain. The Dualtron 3 chassis is a compromise, and rightly so. A lot of my riding is on sidewalks and bikeways, and that means obstacles, light poles, pedestrians, and overgrown landscaping. The Dualtron has excellent slow-speed geometry, which allows you to snake around whatever's in the way at very low speeds. And since the scooter is nearly silent, I frequently come up on pedestrians and they don't even notice me. I've added a small bike bell on the handlebars to alert them of my approaching. But I would say that more than half the time the walkers have earbuds blasting music into their heads and never hear it. So sometimes I have to travel at their speeds until it's safe to pass. And even at 3 miles per hour, the handling is solid and confidence-inspiring. This excellent slow-speed handling has a trade-off. When the scooter starts traveling at speeds that are above 30 miles per hour, it demands a lot more attention. The small wheels and steep handling allow it to understeer at higher speeds, and it can be a bit spooky in the corners. Higher speeds are reserved for smooth, straight conditions. As I mentioned, I try to limit my time mixing it up with automobile traffic. Still, sometimes it's unavoidable and it's my only option to get to my destination. I've had about a half dozen near misses with cars that would make your heart jump out of your chest. Cars pulling out without seeing me, or just being idiots and not following the traffic lights, or having their heads down on their phones. So when I travel, I wear a bright yellow day glow vest to improve my chances of visibility. I also wear a motorcycle half helmet and gloves in case I do have to talk to the pavement, or heaven forbid, the windshield of a car. I spent about a decade commuting by motorcycle and several years racing motocross, and those skills have good transference to scooter riding. But even the best skills can't protect you from a driver's negligence. So use good judgment and start slowly with a scooter as powerful as the Dualtron until your skills improve. Take advantage of the multiple lower power settings to get started with before pushing it into turbo mode. So when you think about speeds that this scooter is capable of, you also have to think about stopping performance as well. The Dualtron 3 has cable-actuated hydraulic disc brakes both front and rear. They work far superior to the brakes on those rental scooters you may have tried. They are progressive and able to bring the Dualtron down from those high speeds. But they could be better. To brake hard, you'll need to use all 4 fingers on the front and rear levers. You can upgrade the brake system to a full hydraulic Magura caliper, which is available from Mini Motors, but it's pricey. At speeds around 20 to 25 miles per hour, the chassis allows you to carve corners and it's really a blast to ride. It tracks smoothly and holds the line well. I attribute much of this excellent mid-speed handling to the tubeless pneumatic tires that it comes with. They are very sticky and have actually improved with age. But the soft rubber compound also wears quickly, and it didn't take long for the tire tread to disappear. At about 700 miles, both tires had no tread left and were ready for replacement. Replacement tires cost $40 from Mini Motors USA. Or you can get a pre-mounted tire on a replacement rim for $80, which you might consider if you don't have any tire changing experience. While I was ordering the tires, I also decided to buy some replacement brake pads. Both front and rear pads were only 16 bucks. Once the replacement tire and brakes arrived, it was my first time doing any significant wrenching on the Dualtron. I quickly learned about some of the shortcomings with the supportability and serviceability of the Dualtron. It became apparent as I set off to remove the rear wheel. You first have to remove the rear fender, and the bolts are buried behind the wheel, making it very difficult to remove. The designers just really didn't think through the serviceability here. Once the wheel was off, changing the tire was the next challenge. I quickly learned that those little plastic bicycle tire levers were not up to the task. I used motorcycle tire irons and a good amount of perseverance to get the new tires on and seated properly. Brake pad replacement went much smoother. Once I had the pads off and mic'd them, I found that after 900 miles, there really was still plenty of meat left. They were only worn a few thousandths and really didn't need replacement. One very positive thing I noticed during this maintenance work is the quality of the materials used in the construction of the scooter. There is liberal use of stainless steel fasteners, tight tolerance, well-fitting components, and the aluminum castings are clean and smooth. Range is another important performance consideration on any electric vehicle. Mini Motors claims 75-mile range under ideal conditions. Emphasis on ideal conditions, which means single motor on flat terrain. Because my ride is so hilly and I typically ride fairly aggressively, I have never come close to those numbers. The scooter really starts using battery fast when you push speeds above 30 miles per hour. My longest ride so far has been 42 miles between charges, and the scooter did not let me down. One thing you can do to stretch the range of the scooter is to use regeneration braking, meaning every time you brake, it creates power to charge the battery some. I found that it greatly extends the battery range, upwards of 15 to 20%. But as I mentioned in the first video, regen braking is awkward since it often engages harder than you expect and feels unpredictable regardless of the setting. Consequently, I turned it off months ago, and I feel the scooter is much more predictable and fun to ride without it. This is another area where I expect we will see some improvement in future generations of this scooter. Many people in the first video commented that the folding steering tube is unnecessary and could be eliminated. But for me, I really like having the folding steering column, and I use it every time I run an errand with the scooter. I fold it when I reach my destination and then lock it up to draw less attention to the scooter. I should mention that locking up the scooter isn't that ideal. There really is no good secure place on the scooter to run your cable. You also have to think about where to secure the scooter as well. Bike racks seem to be disappearing from the landscape in favor of more car parking. So sometimes you have to get creative and secure the scooter to whatever you can find, like a building water pipe or gas line. So let's talk a bit about the Dualtron rider controls. The brake lever controls are very nice. They're easy to reach, the right width, and have a grippy rubber front to them. The handlebars are a bit narrow and contribute to the high-speed spookiness, but they were designed with the ability to fold for transport, and that makes them a compromise. Aftermarket clamps are available, which allow you to put a wider mountain bike handlebar on the scooter. So let's talk about the elephant in the room: cost. This scooter was $2,900 US, and that's a lot, a real lot. But like most any other sports or activities, you're going to pay a premium to get the top of the line stuff. Whether it's high-end golf clubs, works bicycles, or the latest car technology. The high-end market for these types of products is smaller, and you're going to be paying for cutting-edge technology. As I was putting the finishing touches on this video and touting no issues with my scooter, I must have taunted with Murphy a bit too much, and I suffered my first real issue with the Dualtron. As I was riding it home, the turbo button stopped working. After talking with Cooper at Mini Motors, he advised me to check the wiring of the switch as it exits the steering column. Sure enough, the insulation had worn through and shorted the wires. A quick call back to Cooper to let him know that he was spot on with his troubleshooting, and he got a replacement switch in the mail to me that day. Once again, service was top shelf with the folks at Mini Motors. I've been very happy with my purchase. I like being able to get around town quickly and silently for just a few cents a mile for energy. But the biggest reason for purchasing a Dualtron is that it's a lot of fun. This Dualtron 3 has been a workhorse for me, and very few issues with it so far. I would love to try one of the higher-end Dualtron Thunder or even the X, but actually I think the 3 is plenty of scooter and more than gets the job done. So I hope this was helpful and I shed some more light on this fun new mode of transportation. Thanks for watching.